Hello, hello, it's Patty Joe. How are you? I am ever so slightly under the weather, so hopefully I can pull myself together. I haven't been following this like fastidiously, but this chick with the suitcase thing. Okay, maybe we'll go back to like her phone call and stuff like that. I think I might have done like touched this and that on it, but this is the problem that I have with her, Miss Sarah Boone. She is so narcissistic. She really believes she didn't do anything wrong. Okay. In spite of that video, which I would love to take a look at too, she is now calling it battered spouse. All right. So anyway, let's focus on a couple of things here that I brought up. This are her motions, her pre-trial motions, I guess. This is all from Court TV because Court TV is all over this, and I hope everybody in Florida is doing well. I've got my grandson's mother lives in Florida. My family lives in Florida. So I'm hoping my cousins and all of their kids are doing very well. I'm sure they are. All right, so here are the important items to Miss Sarah. So important. Ooh. She wants to have her hair done. Her hair did every day for court. She wants to wear civilian clothes, which I think they're allowing. The makeup, she wanted somebody to come in and do that because it is contraband in jail, so that she can't have it in jail. She wants to not have shackles on during the trial, and I think they're going to do something similar to what they did in the Brooks trial, where it was all kind of hidden away. So she'll be able to wear clothes. She's not going to get did up. It sounded like almost like she wanted to have women come in and do it for her because then she wouldn't have to take the stuff to jail. And then last but not least, she wants to have the interrogation video suppressed. All these other things, so unimportant. And then the interrogation. Okay, let's listen to what Court TV has to say.
She had a request to have her hair done. And yes, that's a check. Yes, you can have your hair done, Sarah Boone, at trial. Request to wear civilian clothes. Check. You will get to wear your civilian clothes. Okay, request to have her makeup done. Not happening. They had to draw the line somewhere.
No
it seems
makeup.
like
Me, no
corrections
makeup.
had a little problem with that. Can't have it done. So she'll have her hair done, but she's not going to have the professional makeup artist come in. Request to have shackles and restraints removed during the trial. Yes, that would be prejudicial. And finally, this is the big one, folks. Request to have her interrogation video suppressed, kept out of evidence. It's coming in.
Excellent.
It is coming in, folks. The interrogation video where she makes a lot of statements. She's all over the place. And in statements that may be considered inconsistent with the defense in this case. So Sarah Boone was on the stand on Wednesday for this pretrial motion here.
Okay, I'm going to cut away from the pretrial motion. I'm sorry, and go over to this plea deal thing because I think this is kind of important too. Now, this happened, I think, after that whole pretrial motion thing, but they offered her a plea. The plea that they offered was a lesser charge of manslaughter, where she would get 15 years with credit for what she served, which is practically 4 years. So she would serve out of 15, like 2/3 to half. That's 8. She's already served half of that. So she'd be out in a handful of years. She said no. And she said no. And she said no. Because she really thinks she can convince us all. Let's go to that, and then we'll go back to the other so we can watch the interrogation.
Until next week in the highly anticipated suitcase murder trial. The defendant there, Sarah Boone, she's accused of killing her boyfriend by zipping him up in a suitcase and leaving him there to die. Boone told investigators that she and George Torres had been playing a game of hide and seek and that she assumed that he could get out of that suitcase. So there have been a lot of breaking news details today. Let's bring in live now from Orlando, Florida, Court TV legal correspondent Kelly Craft with us there on the ground. Kelly, so many changes today. What can you tell us about these latest developments?
Well, hi there, Julia. Yes, a lot of big developments here in Orlando for this case. We have been anxiously awaiting the start of this murder case against Sarah Boone. But today, another delay. So in the past, we've had lots of delays because Sarah Boone was going through so many attorneys filing motions and doing many other things that this trial has been postponed many times.
They continued this because of the storms. They're not going to do jury selection. Because who knows, like somebody's house maybe, or they may get hurt, may be affected by this storm, and then they wouldn't be able to serve. So they can't really pick a jury and then have a storm. So it's continued until let's see what he has to say.
Postpone jury selection in this matter till Monday, October 14th at 9 a.m.
So we have a huge crew here from Court TV on the ground, Julia. We were waiting for this case to begin. But of course, over the last few days, we heard about this other hurricane that is expected to hit here and around the Orlando area. And so then you heard the chief judge there saying that things are going to be postponed until next Monday.
No, it's good to take those precautions, but certainly that does shake things up there inside the courtroom. And speaking of shakeups, we learned on the record today something about a deal that was offered to Sarah Boone. What can you tell us about that?
There certainly was the plea offer made to Sarah Boone this morning before things got going. And of course, Julie, if she would have accepted this, then things would have been more or less over for Sarah Boone in regards to what the impending trial was going to be, et cetera. So she was offered a plea deal of 15 years for manslaughter. She's already been behind bars for several years. So then she would have had to serve the rest of this term, but she rejected that. Let's go ahead and listen to some sound from this morning regarding that plea offer.
Do you understand that if we were to proceed to trial in this matter, and if you were found guilty, the lowest permissible sentence that the court could levy in this case would be 22.5 years in the Department of Corrections? Do you understand that? Do you understand the state's offer to resolve this case? Yes. Okay. The offer is
15 years to a lesser included charge of manslaughter, with the understanding that she would serve 85% of that sentence.
That's up to the department and her behavior, but that is my understanding of the section.
Ma'am, understanding the state's offer, do you wish to accept or reject the state's offer to resolve this case?
Reject.
So you heard Sarah Boone there rejecting the state's offer of 15 years to manslaughter. So Sarah Boone did not want that. She is going to move forward with this trial with her attorney. And then, of course, if she is found guilty of second-degree murder, you heard the judge there talk about it, she would be sentenced up to 22 and a half years behind bars for the second-degree murder offense if jurors found her guilty of that one, Julia. So some big developments here in Orlando in spite of the trial being postponed, the start of it till next week. But that plea deal, and then, of course, now jury selection, not till Monday.
All right, Kelly Craft, thank you for the latest there from Orlando. We'll let you go. Let's bring in our guest for this hour. Marjorie Mesidor is with us. Marjorie, trial attorney in New York City. Marjorie, a lot happened today in this case. We were waiting for opening statements to be starting this week, jury selection to start today. But let me first just ask you, before we talk about that deal that we heard the defendant reject, jury selection being postponed for a week. I mean, we were expecting that there could be some issues with the
blah, blah, blah.
Well, jury selection being postponed due to weather reasons is of the trial while somebody's on the stand or while a portion of the jury has already been selected just has a way of just really disturbing. Actually a bit, serendipitous for.
All right.
We didn't know the exact numbers because she's had so many attorneys. She's had, this is her 9th attorney, so 8 other attorneys that things just simply didn't work out with for one reason or the other. And now we know on the record that the state was offering her a plea deal of 15 years. 85% of that is what is typically the standard that she would have to serve. If you do the numbers, it looks like it would be closer to about 10 years, but then if you subtract the 4, I mean, she could be looking at a much lower sentence because she's already served 4 years. In looking at Sarah Boone sitting there and her attorney sitting next to her, what do you think the dynamic is in terms of who wants this deal and who is saying it's a good idea and who's saying absolutely not?
I think that it's very clear that it's Sarah Boone who is saying that this is not a good idea. In her rejection of the plea deal, she almost seemed defiant. I think that any attorney looking at the facts of this case, looking at the evidence that is amounting against her, as well as how much time she will actually end up serving, is going to encourage the client at least to give this some deep, thoughtful consideration. We also have the history of the fact that this is her 9th attorney. So having gone through 8 attorneys, it may be that she is taking a very strong stance that she will see this through verdict, regardless of what happens in the interim. So I think that if we're going to be looking at who wants this deal and who doesn't, if I had to place my bets, I would say that the attorney probably wants it, or at least wants it to be seriously considered, and it is Ms. Boone who.
All right. She honestly thinks that she is not guilty of this. That is what is pretty incredible. All right, let's go over here and watch some of this. Just for fun.
There's no hole. There's no fingers. I don't see his fingers. There's no hole.
I don't know what you want me to tell you. I don't know, what you want me to tell you.
I'm just telling you what we see and what we've heard from the other video.
I understand.
He's begging for you to let him out. You're laughing in the beginning, and then in the end, it sounds kind of like a...
No, it's not malicious.
Well, same.
She interrupts it. It's
not malicious.
Then what is that?
What does mean to you?
Well...
So it goes from funny to no longer funny, but you're the only one laughing.
But I didn't think that he was, panicky.
So pushing up on a suitcase saying, Sarah, Sarah, Sarah.
I can't breathe.
George has done that in the past before, too, where it's just he thinks that he's woe is me kind of thing, where it's
he's never been locked in a suitcase. That's where he couldn't get out. So
it's I thought it was the boy crying wolf kind of thing.
Okay.
And again, my plan.
But nowhere in there is he laughing, is he joking. He is begging. And you're the only one laughing.
Okay.
And you're the only one saying derogatory comments, you're mad.
No. Please I don't mean to sound negative, and I don't know if I can say this, but it's like you guys are kind of trying to feed me.
No, I'm just trying to show you a video that you no longer want to watch because you probably don't want to know the outcome of how and what you said.
Well, I know what.
You know what's on that video now?
No.
You remember making that video?
Oh.
Why don't you remember making the video?
Probably because we had been drinking.
But you weren't drunk.
No. Just because I went upstairs and... Just because you're drunk doesn't mean that you...
times that you were not drunk. You said that you had your wits about you. You said he had his wits about you. You said that you don't like not having your wits. In my experience, if somebody cannot remember doing something to the extent of making 2 videos and taking a photo, they are intoxicated.
Okay. My plan was not to go upstairs and go to sleep. My plan was not to, he'll be up here any minute.
But you
again-
willingly went upstairs and went to sleep. No one forced you to go upstairs and get
My
ready
plan
for
was
bed.
also to leave him in the suitcase.
So why didn't you take him out?
Because I went upstairs and then I fell asleep.
Okay, her defense now is battered spouse syndrome, self-defense. That's where the case is going. That's where the focus of the defense will be. Paulette Lofton, how much of a problem is this 2-hour interrogation, pieces like this? Does it fit with the defense, or does it become a problem for her?
I don't think it fits at all. So I think it's a large problem that those interrogations are going to be played for the jury. It's clear, if we believe the facts as she presents them in those interviews, she at least had the upper hand at some point. She had him in a suitcase. He was unable to get out of the suitcase himself. He's begging her for help, and she took it upon herself to not call the police and tell them, you know, I'm finally done taking him back. This is the abuse I've been suffering. She went upstairs and went to sleep. It's clear that she's also making inconsistent statements, whether she was intoxicated or she wasn't intoxicated. I think that interview is really going to hurt her. I agree with you. I think she did present well in that hearing that they had earlier this week, and she seems to be calm and listen to the questions and answer them appropriately. But I think the jury's probably going to give a lot of weight to those interviews in the first hours after she calls 911.
I agree. Ben, the video is so powerful because you can hear George Torres suffering. Like any human hears what he's saying. You're like, this is a man obviously in distress. And she's not really acknowledging that. She literally said, he's always like, woe is me. George is dead. I mean, he suffered a horrible death.
Yeah.
And afterwards she's saying, oh, he's always going, woe is me. That's a bad look.
Yeah, it's horrific, and just even the visual image of the suitcase and imagining somebody in that tiny area, it must have been torture for him. I think I agree with Paulette. I think it's absolutely damning and completely inconsistent with battered spouse syndrome.
So, Bernarda, and one thing that the attorney James Owens has said is, and he said it in court, he said it on the show, that I think a lot of focus will be about what happened before he got in the suitcase, and then also what happens before the video camera begins recording. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's got to come from her mouth, right? She has to testify in this. I don't see any way to attempt to make a case without her testifying.
Absolutely. So Sarah Boone does plan to present this defense of battered woman syndrome or self-defense. She's going to have to take the stand. So the big issue for her is, number one, is that she gave prior statements. She has the videotape statement. She has the statement from when the officers first encounter her. So she's going.
My son's ex, and I won't mention any names because, you know, I don't want to get myself into trouble, but she's claiming that she was the abused one. Yet I witnessed her run into a kitchen to get a knife to come back and stab him after he had just had surgery. I witnessed her getting a brick to hit him with. I witnessed her putting the children and him out of the house. I witnessed her, not the hanger stabbing incident, but the mark on his neck where she stabbed him with a hanger. And I wonder, and she's very much a narcissist too. So I wonder about, you know, what she wants people to do. And she wants people to believe it's all him, actually also. So pretty common in the narcissist area.
to be confronted with both of those statements and then what story she's going to give while on the stand. So if you look at all three of them, right there you have a lot of inconsistencies. And when you're trying to evaluate credibility, one of the main factors that you look at is are there any inconsistencies? Has she said this story before? Did she first report it when she had the first opportunity, for example, when the officers first came to her, and they're going to find that she did not. I don't think she comes off also as likable. And also, one thing that does work in her favor, though, Vinny, is that the prosecutors don't have exactly what happened beforehand. The only two people that can say what happened beforehand is Sarah Boone and the person who is dead. And now that person's dead, so they can't speak.
Paulette, the expert really has to, a defense expert has to explain to the jury all of her behavior afterwards, right? That's the only way to try to reconcile it, because I think if regular folks who haven't studied this syndrome and don't know anything about it will just look at her and then listen to George in the suitcase, and we're gonna believe that this whole thing is made up unless an expert can somehow explain why she would be like she was in the video, on the body camera video, and in the interrogation room.
I agree. Battered spouse syndrome is absolutely something that is real and can be proved. So yes, I think this is going to really turn into a battle of the experts. The experts will be able to explain to the jury that her behavior is either common or not common with someone who is actually suffering from the syndrome, and why she may not act like you would think you would act in a similar situation. So it is something that is possible. It is something that is proven to juries. But I think those videos are really going to come back to haunt her. And I think whatever the expert says, I think the jury is going to put a lot of weight in those first interviews that she did.
Big thank you, Paulette Lofton, Bernardo Villalona, Ben Chu. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend. When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinny Politan Investigates, a wife and mother is stabbed to death.
Better videos of her doing that. But I think what I feel and what has gotten my son in trouble with his situation is, even though he was defending himself, at some point the hanger was put down. So I don't know, at no time in the suitcase is he a danger to her, in my opinion. But let's see how the experts explain it to us, right? All right, well, I know this was kind of like all over the place. Not feeling all that organized right now, but I thank you for joining. Like, subscribe, dislike, whatever you want. Make fun of my hair. Do whatever you want. But have a great day. Thanks. Bye.